Hello and welcome. My name is Lexi Jong and today we're going to do a quick get ready with me featuring some new items as well as some of my current favorites. And we've got the new Surratt Concealers. These were gifted to me. Thank you so much to Surratt. And I have been using these for several days, so I have some wear tests and some more extended thoughts for you on those. I was also gifted, thank you to Beauty Bay for sending me this incredibly large neutral eyeshadow palette. It's got a lot of great shades, so we're going to be using this today as well as some of my current favorite products and a couple other new things like the new Guerlain Rouge G lipstick from the fall, the 139 shade, which I missed during the initial launch because it sold out so quickly. So it's now available at Sephora. I picked it up. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at that, and we'll look at comparisons with all of the other shades as well. So let's go ahead and get started. All right, so I thought you guys could get ready with me today, and I have a little bit of a sunburn, and let's try and camouflage it. So we're going to start off with a primer, and this was sent to me from Beauty Bay. It's a glow filter. It says it's a lightweight, versatile formula to prime and illuminate the skin for an effortless glow. So I figure we'll try this. So I started to unscrew this, but that is not the way to go. So pull off the cap, and it is a pump. So let's see here. This is it. Let's try it out on my hand first. It's a little bit thicker than I expected. I'm not gonna put this all over. Let's put this, you could probably just use this as a highlight, which might actually be better as a highlight instead of an actual primer. Yeah, so the texture, it has one of those kind of like a dewy, slightly tacky texture. So I think it will work actually underneath pretty well, but you could dab on small bits on top, but it's a little bit thicker. It's more of I like a thin primer. This is more medium, not super thick, but medium to thick texture. So you can kind of see on my skin here how thick that is, but it is a really nice light golden peach shade. So you can see how that looks on my skin. It actually gives a really nice glow. That's really pretty that way. Let's go ahead, and for foundation, I'm going to use the Rituel de Fille. I want to try and camouflage a little bit more of this redness. So I have the Rituel de Fille 3-drop weightless serum foundation, and this is in shade 110. So this is more than 3 drops. I'm not going to use all of this. Let's go ahead and just dab a little bit on and see how this goes. So I'm using the BK Beauty 101 brush, and I've used this serum foundation many times. It's actually a favorite of mine. So haven't used it on my skin when it's this red, because honestly, I've really tried very hard not to get sunburnt, and I got one last year when we went on our trip to Hawaii, but that was like at the very end of the trip. I was so good. But my kids have been, I'm going to use just a little bit more. They haven't had any camp or anything recently. So they've been home with me during the day, which is why I haven't gotten as much filming in. But we have been going to visit my parents a lot, who, they're not super close, but they're not far. They're like an hour away from us. My kids get a little car sick, so we don't typically go too frequently. But, my sister and her kids are moving soon, so trying to get the kids to play together a lot before that happens. They're moving in like 6 months, so it's not quite that soon, but my parents have a pool, so we've all been getting together there. And let's see here, I'm gonna add just a little bit more here. Let me bring you in closer. So this is the first year that my girls have really truly enjoyed swimming. My oldest has always loved the water, but they both have a very healthy fear of water. And so this is the first year that she has felt confident enough to spend like so much time in the deep end and stuff. So it's been a lot of fun. She's been practicing diving and stuff like that. My youngest, until now, has always been afraid of putting her head in the water. And she finally has. So now she's enjoying swimming underwater, and it's been just so much fun in the pool with them. So that's what we've been doing a ton of. And obviously, since I'm not at home, I haven't had time to film as much. So here's the foundation on here. If you're not familiar with it, it is an oil-based serum foundation. It's thin with full coverage. and I think it's a really great product. It is a little sticky right when you put it on, at least in the heat and humidity, but it will pretty much set down pretty well. So I really like it, but I'm gonna be outside a lot, so I like to set it with powder right now. So let's see. I'm taking this Kyoto Yoshiki monochrome brush, and I'm going into the Koh Gen Do. This is the Brightening Moisture Powder. This is the original shade. I think they call it like Brightening Beige. I'm just gonna pat a little bit on here just to mattify it, just a touch. And yeah, this is a classic powder that I still love. You know, it's one that I still reach for years. You need so little of it. I mean, this is what mine still looks like, and it's been years. And sometimes this is like the only powder I use. So, you know, I definitely use it. It's not just sitting here. I would have to say the powders I reach for the most would be the Koh Gen Do, the Givenchy powders, and the SUQQU. These are the ones that I use the majority of the time. So I kind of rotate between those three. Sometimes, you know, different shades of the Givenchy or the SUQQU, but those are my favorites right now. Now let's move into concealer. So Surratt sent me their new concealer, and I will show you the demo of shade 1. That's the one that I've been using a lot. You can see we have, you know, a twist opening. Let me go ahead and put that on here. So this is shade 1. You can see it's very light. It's more of a true ivory. And they also sent me shade 3. So this is a little deeper. Since I am burnt, I figured let's go ahead and try out the deeper shade today. And I'll show you the clips of the one in just a second. So it's taking a while to click up, but before I show the product on here, see if you can see the texture of the applicator. It's like a velvety texture, like a velour puff type material. So it's not that traditional, more spongy material that you get with a lot of these applicators. All right, so it's starting to come through now. And you really don't need much. Now, once it starts coming through, this is obviously too much to actually use. It's a lot more than it looks like on here. It's a little deceiving. So we're gonna put this on. Let me bring you in. So let's start with just that, and I'll use my finger to kind of blend that in. Shade 3 is actually a really good shade actually for me. I've been using 1, but 3 might be a better match. It isn't as stark. So here it is versus no concealer. So let me go ahead and just finish this one. And I like tapping this in with a finger. I have used a brush, it works just fine, but I don't know. I've just been enjoying the finger application with this one. I think because of the applicator, you know, for some reason I just lean more towards using a finger with this. It's a little close for that swatch. So here is 1 and 3, and you can see how much more, you know, 3 is more of your traditional peachy beige shade. It is neutral though, so it doesn't lean warm or cool. And yeah, I would say that 1, just because it is so stark white, you don't really have any undertones really present in it. It's going to be a little bit cooler in tone in general. But I think they're both great shades. I like the effect of that. Let me go ahead and share those clips with you of the application for number 1 while we talk about the product details. So this is the Dewdrop Concealer from Surratt, and we have 4 milliliters of product here. And according to the box, it says, on first use, twist the bottom of the concealer several times until the formula emerges from the sponge applicator. Twist again to get your desired amount, being careful to not oversaturate the sponge applicator, which, you know, really you need to be cautious. It goes fast. This is made in Japan, and we have a 1-year shelf life. And yeah, I have to say, I've been enjoying this. I've been using this for a few days. It did just officially release from Surratt this week. And, you know, I think it's a really nice concealer. So you can see from the wear test how it performs over time. And you can see I'm doing this with shade 1, which I think it shows the product pretty well, since is, you know, with my little bit of sunburn, it's not a 100% perfect match there, so you can see how that performs. But all right, so I'm gonna just add a little bit of the Viseart eye primer on my eyes, while you are checking things out here. And you know, I'm still using this primer. It's like a silicone base clear primer. I think it's really nice. I do like to add a little powder on top just to get a smoother application. I didn't always do that, but I did find that sometimes, you know, I just needed it to kind of dry down, set a little bit more. So the powder really helps with that. So I'm just using the Koh Gen Do powder again and dusting it on with the new Worker L brush from Sonia G, which I have been loving for so many things. It's just such a great, like, everything brush. So I've got that on. That's going to be my base. And I thought today, let's go ahead. I keep smudging my nails. My nails, they've been on for a while, but this is like 3 coats of Mooncat's House of Hades. I love this shade, but it's still a little soft. I didn't add a top coat yet, and I think I probably won't this time. But anyway, Beauty Bay sent me this neutral palette. So there are 42 shades in this, and I mean, that's incredibly large. So there are 42 shades, 1.4 grams of product, and it's cruelty-free, vegan. It has a 1-year shelf life, and it's made in PRC, which is China. So I figure let's go ahead and try out a few shades of this today. I'm going to bring you in closer again. I'm going to take the Refer 16, and we're going to go into this shade here in the second row, which is called Petal. So it's the second from the left in the second row. And I'm just going to kind of do a base of this one, kind of in the crease and just a little bit all over. You can see it gives a little bit of a rosy hue to it. Texturally, this feels like a traditional powder eyeshadow. So nothing unusual so far. Then I'm going to go down to the second row from the bottom and get this mauve shade with the Sonia G Crease Pro. So it's called Mauve, and it is 3 rows down from Petal. So going in with this one, just going to go into the crease a little bit more directly with this, kind of getting that rosy hue vibe. So it's some pinky mauve. You know, I think it's actually a really pretty shade. I like this one. So 4th row down, all the way on the right. This is second from the right. And we're going to go into this purple shimmer shade called Trophy with the Refer 02. Let's see how this one is. And just going to kind of put this on here. All right, so it's going on fine. It's a nice basic shimmer. It is a little messy in the pan. You can see here, dipping the brush in, you can see how it has kind of made a little bit of a mess. This is a firmer brush, but you know, I still didn't quite expect that. So here's Trophy. And let's use a finger application on the other side here. So very smooth and creamy to touch. I think it goes on better with the finger if you want more pronounced application, but it is a little bit harder to shear out with the finger because it's so creamy that the particles kind of accumulate. So if you want to shear this out, you are going to need to kind of apply with the finger and then brush out a bit with a brush just to kind of spread it a little bit more. So you can see the difference there. Same row, but 3rd from the left, we're going into Bangle. So this is 4th row down, 3rd from the left. And this, it almost looks like a silvery white shade in the pan. And then as soon as I dip my brush into it, it looks a bit pinkish. So let's see how that goes. Yeah, I would say it's more like a shimmery version of the mauve shade. A little bit lighter, but it does remind me of that. I'm just going to put a little bit more of that right on top of Trophy here where they overlap. Smooth that out a bit. So far everything's been going well this summer. Just been super busy with things. We are going on a trip soon in a couple weeks, so I won't be online very much. I might actually just stay offline, spend the time, you know, with the family and so forth. But everything's been going well. Sadie's been doing really well. She just had another vet appointment, and she's basically good until she has to get spayed. So that's it for the eyeshadows. Let me go ahead and just swatch the ones that I used here so you can see. We're going to start off with Petal here, and you can see that that is just a really nice neutral base shade there. We have this mauve, which I really like this mauve shade. And then we have Trophy and Bangle. And I have to say, when you touch the shimmers, they feel really nice to touch. I don't really care for the brush application with it though, because it doesn't feel like it's moving really. It kind of feels like wherever you put it on, that's where it is. It doesn't feel like it spreads out as easily. So these are the 4 shades that I used on the eyes. And then I think for liner, let's go in with one of the SUQQU Nuance eyeliners. This is in shade 3, which is a permanent gray shade. So it's right there. I'm just gonna do this one real quickly. I am not great at liquid eyeliner. All right, so I'm just gonna curl my lashes here with the Rephr Lash Curler. This is the 20R curler. So yeah, really like that. We're gonna use the, well, you know what? I'm gonna use my Sisley. This is the Sisley So Stretch. I have this one in black right now. The brown is my favorite. I use the brown all the time, but I wanted to try out the other shades, so I purchased the blue and the black. I've already finished up the blue, but you know, that's one of those really deep navy blues that it doesn't look blue on your lashes. So if you're looking for a very subtle blue, that one works. If you're looking for something to look blue, the Sisley is not it. But the black, you know, it's nice. I just do a light coat of it because I like it to be, you know, I'll vamp it up if I want to for nighttime, but for daytime, I like to do just a light coat. And today I'm going to leave the under eye area, the under lashes alone. So let's move on to blush and cheeks. So I want to use some products I've been really enjoying recently. So I've been using this Soleil Claire bronzer from Surratt quite a bit. So I want to use that. I'm going to use the Sonia G. This is the Jumbo Bronzer, which is, you know, like my favorite bronzer brush here. And I'm just using a tiny, tiny bit because I'm going to go in with the SUQQU 143 blush, which has a little bit of that bronzer look to it. So I don't want too much of this bronzer. I just kind of want it to blend into it a little bit. So I'm going in very light-handed and just kind of putting on just a little bit. So let's move on to the blush. So I'm going to take this 143 blush from SUQQU, and I'm going to kind of start on this side here. This is the Rephr 04, so it is the angled brush, and sometimes I'll use this one for bronzer as well. I'm just gonna kind of add a little bit on here, and then I'm gonna go in with a little bit more of the lavender part here and kind of add a little punch here to the apple and blend that out a little bit. So that way I don't have the whole thing mixed, but a little bit. I just really like seeing the lavender on the cheek. Okay, so I'm going to just add a little bit more of the lavender kind of as highlight there as well. I was going to use a different highlighter, but I think let's just use that. So my first interaction with my mother-in-law was actually back when we had started dating. We were teenagers at this point, and my parents had a pool, and you know, he didn't tell me that he didn't know how to swim, and he lied about it. Like, so, you know, it wasn't just an admission. He pretended that he could. He came over to go swimming, and he got water in his ears, and his mom called me and like totally blasted me for letting him in a pool. And it was, yeah, it was an interesting interaction. So yeah, that was my first introduction to her, but she did end up liking me later. So For brows, I'm going in with the Victoria Beckham. I mean, I use this thing every day, so let's see how much is left after daily use from this. This is it. So I got this as soon as it came out. I'm gonna have to see how long ago that was. I'll put that on the screen. But that's how much I have left. So I think next time they do a free shipping promo or there's a new product that I want to get, I'm gonna have to make sure I add one of these on. I have contacted them to see if they will be offering refills for this. I think they will. Just based off of the way things are packaged and so forth, but they have not responded. So I'm not sure, but I am trying to get that information. So I'll have to reach out again. Maybe my message got lost. I'm sure they get tons a day. So, you know, just have to ask again. But I love this brow product. So it's fantastic. I use the taupe color, I believe. Yep, taupe. And yeah, I like it because it's creamy yet waxy. And it's kind of like just that perfect mixture. So it's not moving around. It can look really natural. You can put it on like very heavy, very light. And the spoolie on this end is pretty substantial. So it's not as fluffy as the spoolie on the Gucci pencil, but you don't need it to be. The thing I like about it is that it's not really bendy. I have gotten some brow pencils before where the spoolie on it is just a little weak. And no, I think this is a good one. All right, and then for lips today, I thought I'd go in with the Guerlain. This is the Velvet in 139 Sweet Nude. So when I ordered all of the other shades, this is the one that I was missing. So we're gonna go ahead and put this one on. All right, so this shade is probably gonna be better for people with a warmer skin tone than I have. Mine's pretty neutral, but I think it's just, it's not the best shade for me. It's not bad, but it's not the best shade. I need to sharpen this, but this is the Esam lip pencil and blush. This is the warmer side. I'm just going to sharpen this real quickly and then go around the edges. All right, so let me go ahead and swatch these. And again, this is shade 139. And oops, we're just gonna put this on here. And you can see it's definitely like a warm peach with a bit of beige in there. And let me put that lip pencil with it so you can see how much of a perfect match those are. I mean, look at that. Those are so close. So let me take a second and swatch the other Guerlain lipsticks that came in this collection so you can see how they compare. This one here is 159, which is another one of the velvets. You can see it's got a bit more red. It's going to be deeper. This one is 539, which is, again, going to be a little bit deeper. This one's actually a little bit warmer than the 159. And this one here is 819. Which is gonna be a bit more of a deeper berry. So you can see that these four velvet shades are pretty similar, specifically 159 and 539. So these two are very similar in the middle. The new one, the 139, it's definitely gonna be the lightest. It's not on some skin tones, on deeper skin tones, I do think this will be a little bit of that concealer lip kind of look. It's too deep for that for me, but it has that same kind of opacity to it and that same peachy hue that you get in some of those lipsticks. We also had 3 satins. So let's go ahead and take a look at the satins. The satins were my favorites, actually. I have to say, I'm not loving this one on me, but I know it's gonna look beautiful on some people with a warmer skin tone. So this is number 8, and this is not the same 8 as the Holiday. I will just compare that real quickly. I've compared that a few places at this point. I'll put this one right here, and you can see that the 8 from Holiday is going to have more pink in it. And you can tell them apart. I'm not sure if you can really see this on the screen because it's so reflective, but there's a little like diamond after the 8, you know, kind of like the diamond that's on the case from the holiday collection. So the holiday one does have that differentiating it. And then we have shade 15, and it's a really beautiful chocolate satin brown. Has a little warmth to it, but it's not overly warm. Really like that one. And then this one here is 19, which is kind of a rich shade here. It is like an eggplant chocolate. So mixing the two of them together. So the satins are definitely my favorite from that collection. So this is the final look then. And let's just take a brief second to go through all of the products and my thoughts on them. All right, so let's start off with the Surratt concealers. I have to say, I really like the concealers. I have used the Surratt Dewdrop Foundation. I used up an entire jar bottle of it, and I thought it was a really nice foundation, but it wasn't a favorite of mine. It's definitely, you know, up there in my estimation, but, you know, it still didn't make like those top like 3 or 4 for me. I think it's really nice. However, this concealer I like better than the foundation. So this is definitely a really nice concealer. Again, we have shades 1 and 3. Let me just do a couple comparisons of some other shades here. My go-to is this Valentino in LIGR2, which is more of a brightening concealer, and you can see that the shade is actually kind of in between the two. Now this has a lot more light reflection. You can see looking at the Surratt that we still have a lot of elasticity and movement with the formula, even as it's been sitting here for over half an hour on my hand. And you can see that there's a little bit of a satin sheen to it as well. So there's going to be a subtle light reflection with the Surratt. It's going to give you kind of like a sophisticated look. You know, it's not going to be matte and dry, but it's not going to be, you know, as illuminating as something like the Valentino. Now, this is the Givenchy concealer in N95. Let me just go ahead and swatch that one. We'll put that one up here. And you can see that this one is going to be closer to shade 3 from Surratt. They're actually a pretty close match. So if you use the same shades that I do, I would recommend, you know, the 3. I would say the Givenchy is slightly warmer. It has just a little bit more warmth to it than the Surratt. So they're close though. Overall, I think it's a great concealer, and that is definitely something that's going to be sticking around in my routine. Likewise, I also used the Surratt bronzer in Soleil Clair, which has been one that I've really been loving. I love the texture of this. You know, it's got that creamy powder, like slurry texture to it, and yet it is cool enough that I feel like for my skin tone, which burns instead of tans, it still has a more natural look. Let me compare it to the Gucci. So the Gucci bronzer in 01 has been my go-to for, you know, since that came out. And you can see how similar those colors are. The Gucci is going to be, it has a little bit more red in it. So, you know, I think the shade is slightly better still in the Gucci. But this is going to give you, it's a powder formula that it's more like a silky powder. And yeah, it's so finely milled that it does get a little bit of that creaminess, but it still primarily feels like a powder. I really love this formula. The Surratt is a little bit creamier, so it perhaps doesn't blend out quite the same way because you don't have those powder particles. You know, it's a little bit creamier, so it'll stick where you put it, and then you can shear it out, brush it out from there. So I do think that's kind of the difference between those, but you can see that the colors are close, but the Surratt is slightly warmer in tone. Overall, I think they're both great, and would I have to pick one? You know, I don't know. Honestly, these are kind of tied for #1 for me right now. Moving on to the Beauty Bay products. This glow filter, you know, it says wear alone for glowing skin or under makeup as a dewy base. You know, I think it's a little thick for me. I think it's an okay product. I think it gives you a beautiful glow, but I do wish it was a slightly thinner texture, because if I were wearing it on its own or even under makeup, it just feels a little heavy. So I think that's okay. It looks beautiful on, but I prefer a thinner consistency personally. As for the big eyeshadow palette, this is a really pretty palette. You've got a ton of shades in here. If you're looking for a palette with like a ton of basic shades to kind of have on hand, you know, this might be a nice option. I know these go on sale a lot, so it's a very affordable option. I think the mattes are actually a nice basic matte eyeshadow formula. It goes on well, blends out well. The shimmers, they feel very nice, particularly when you swatch them with your finger. But using a brush, I don't love how much it stays in one spot on the brush. I feel like I have to use a little bit too much pressure to smooth that out. So it definitely does better with a finger application, or a foam tip applicator will work well also. So I think it's, you know, these are kind of like nice basics, but you are looking at more drugstore level quality, which, you know, let's face it, between drugstore items and luxury items, we don't always necessarily have a huge difference in formulas. So I would say these are kind of basic, but they're definitely good basics to have on hand. Moving on to the SUQQU blush. I mean, who doesn't love this? I mean, it's just such a beautiful blush. You get kind of this bronzery shade, and you get this beautiful lavender. The lavender has a little bit more shimmer to it, so that can be used as a highlighter. You can mix them together and get this nude, cool tone, you know, blush shade if you want like a highlighting blush. I think it's gorgeous. It's one that I've been using nonstop since I received it. Absolutely love that. And this one was gifted to me in PR, but absolutely love that. And then moving on to the Rituel de Fille, I still think this is a great serum foundation. I love the amount of coverage I can get with using just very little product on my skin. It kind of reminds me a little bit of the Danessa Myricks Yummy Skin Foundation, but I feel like it's a little bit easier to use. The Danessa Myricks is more like a one-drop product for your whole face, and it's really easy to get a little bit too much because of the application. This drop applicator really helps you pinpoint to get, you know, just a small amount, and 3 drops is plenty. Oftentimes I'll only use 2, and I feel like I really get full coverage. It feels nice going on, and it lasts for me all day. Even the heat and humidity, it does get a bit dewy on the skin, and it does have some radiance to it, but I think it's a great product. So it's definitely one I've been reaching for a lot. As I mentioned, the Koh Gen Do Brightening Moisture Powder. It's one that is classic. I've used it for years, absolutely love it. And it's a staple, so I definitely think it's a great powder. And moving on to the lipsticks, you know, I kind of went through all of those here. I think this new shade is only okay on me, but I think it's gonna look great on people with warmer skin tones. I picked mine up at Sephora. They took it off of the Guerlain website for the US, so I'm not sure if they're ever gonna restock that shade there. It went too quickly when the initial collection launched. So overall, though, I love the velvet formula. I love the satin formula, but still from the Guerlain Fall collection, the satins have my heart over the velvets in this case. A couple other shout outs. We've got my Sisley So Stretch Mascara, which is a staple. I've been using this since it came out. I don't always use just this mascara. I mean, often I have a rotation, but you know, this is one of my favorites. This and the Surratt Noir Lash Tint are really kind of up there as my top 2. And that hasn't really changed. We also have the Victoria Beckham Brow Blade, or Baby Blade. I always call it the Brow Blade, but it's a staple. Absolutely love it. Definitely buying another one. And I wanted to mention a couple other older products. This is the Esam Blushed Lip Pencil. I have 2 of these because I use this so much. This pink side is my favorite, but I love how you have both the cooler and the warmer tone on both. I think that is really handy. And you know, this is great. I love these lip pencils because you can actually put these on, use them as lip color, and they're waterproof. So I've worn them in the pool. They last all day. They stay. I typically don't wear makeup at a pool or anything, but you know, it has happened in the past. So yeah. And then the Nuance liquid eyeliner from SUQQU. I love their formula for this, and I love the applicator. So we do have a foam tip applicator, or yeah, a foam. It looks like a brush, but it's a foam tip applicator. And this is one of the easiest liquid eyeliners to use. I'm terrible with liquid eyeliner. I have such a hard time with it. And yeah, you know, this and the Yuzu, you know, the Yuzu Beauty, which is also known as, I'm trying to remember, they used to be the Flow Fuchsia eyeliners. The Yuzu by Flow Fuchsia eye-opening liners. These are my two favorites. So that really hasn't changed. We've had some other nice ones that have come out since, the new Dior ones. Actually, we'll see if they reformulate those again. But the ones that came out last year, those have been really nice as well. But these are my top two. And just a couple other items I wanted to kind of highlight, just some of the brushes that I use. The new Sonia G Worker L, this is just a great everything brush. It is fantastic under the eyes. It's great for putting like powder on your eyelids. It's great for getting in the small places. You know, it's got a little bit more, I'm trying not to go where I had concealer, but you can see we've got a little bit more density. It's not as airy as other brushes I have like this, like the Detail Pro, which is similar in size, but much airier than this. So I find this one to actually be a bit more useful. You can also use it for highlight and so forth. I also wanted to highlight, you know, the Rephr brushes I use. So I use the Rephr 16, which is a crease brush. I love that crease brush. It's great for whenever you want to use a really light color and kind of get above your crease. But I wanted to highlight the 02 brush from Rephr because I use this with the shimmers. And you can see how this is kind of a flat, dense shader brush. It's got the short bristles, which allows it to really pick up shimmers really well. It works really well with shimmers and cream products. So it's kind of a go-to brush. And then I also wanted to mention the BK Beauty 101 brush. This is the travel size one, but it's a great foundation brush. And I think it works well with a variety of foundations. So it's one that I've been reaching for a lot. And, you know, the other brushes I use, obviously, I love them as well. The Rephr, you know, number 4, the Yoshiki Monochrome, and the Crease Pro from Sonia G, and so forth. Those are all great, but I did just want to highlight those few and some of their features I think are a little bit special. And I think that's everything here. So I'd love to know how your summer has been going so far. You know, we've got another month or so of vacation before the kids start back at school. And then unfortunately, they're going to 2 different schools. So I'm going to have quite a bit of driving to do. But yeah, you know, I'm looking forward to being able to get back on a schedule and having some more time to film and stuff. So definitely please, you know, let me know things that you are looking forward to seeing, you know, in another month or so. And I can't wait to kind of incorporate those in. So please let me know how things are going for you. Let me know what your thoughts are on these products, what you've tried, what you haven't. And I hope you have a great day. Thank you so much for tuning in.